Let me know when you can see the screen.
Yes.
I can see it.
Yes.
Me too.
It's good.
All right, great. Okay, so originally, last time we met, said that we would be going over Revelation 17 and 18 today, and I guess I lied. Because as I was digging into it, I felt like this is really a study of its own. There is so much information and material here. And so we're going to spend this entire evening on 2 verses in chapter 16, but lots of other verses as we dig through it. And we're looking at Armageddon. What is Armageddon? And the misconceptions around it, and what is the Bible really tell us about it, and the final battle that lies ahead. So with that said, just a quick reminder, just an overview on the heptadic structure. As you know, this is a timeline that I put together for Revelation 6 through 22. And I explained this is a heptadic structure. We have sets of 7s, and you have the 7 seals, where the 7th seal breaks out into the 7 trumpets, and the 7th trumpet breaks out into the 7 bowls. And between each set, there is an interlude that is introduced in the book of Revelation. So there's an interlude between each 6th and 7th in each set. If you look on, I don't have my pointer, I don't know if we have, because I could point it. The vertical blue bars that you see there represents the interludes. And right now we are in the 3rd interlude and the last one. Revelation 16 verses 15 through 16 is the 3rd and final interlude in this heptadic structure. And it's also the shortest of the 3, and one often interpreted, misunderstood, and definitely underestimated in its significance. So today we are going to go deep into that and examine what this says to us today. So I'll go ahead and read this to you. Actually, I've got it broken out here. Verse 15, Revelation 16, verse 15. This is Jesus talking. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who is watchful. In Greek, the word there is gregoron, which, by the way, that's the name Gregory comes from, watchful, which is also my name, Krikoris, comes from that. That's missing the USD. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Josiah. And the word there is in a continuous tense. So when you're reading it, behold, I come like a thief. Blessed is he, NIV says, who stays awake. In Greek, it comes across who is continuously watching, who is in an ongoing state of watchfulness. And he who keeps his clothes with him, and who keeps his garments, meaning he doesn't lose his clothes, which is an odd way to say that here. We'll look at this here briefly. So that he may not walk naked and people see his shame. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who is watchful and who keeps his garments, so that he may not walk naked and people see his shame. This is the 3rd beatitude in the book of Revelation. We've seen 2 already. This is beatitude number 3. Blessed is the one who is watchful, who remains watchful. Okay, let's look at a few passages together. Eric, can I ask you to look up Luke chapter 12, 35 through 40? I have it on the screen. And also 21, 34 through 36. And then Stephen, Mark chapter 13, 32 through 37. And Carol, do you want to take the last one, Revelation 3, 2 through 5?
Sure.
And then also chapter 19, verse 8.
Okay.
Okay. So, but let's start with Luke. And if you don't mind, just so everyone can hear. Again, this is Luke chapter 12, 35 through 34, and then also 21, 34 through 36.
Stay dressed for action and keep your lamps burning. And be like men who are waiting for their master to come home from the wedding feast, so that they may open the door to him at once when he comes and knocks. Blessed are those servants whom the master finds awake when he comes. Truly I say to you, he will dress himself for service and have them recline at table, and he will come and serve them. If he comes in the second watch or in the third and finds them awake, blessed are those servants. But know this, that if the master of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have left his house to be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect.
You also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour that you do not expect. And also note the mention here on being ready and being clothed and prepared. Okay, and then 21.
21, 34, 36. But watch yourself, lest your hearts be weighed down with dispensation and drunkenness and cares of this life. And that day come upon you suddenly like a trap, for it will come upon all who dwell on the face of the whole earth. But stay awake at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are going to take place and to stand before the Son of Man.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Be always on the watch. Okay, and then Mark chapter 13, 32 through 37.
But concerning that day or that hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Be on guard, keep awake, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey, when he leaves home and puts his servants in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeepers, stay awake. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning, lest he come suddenly and find you asleep. And what I say to you all, stay awake.
Okay, and then Revelation chapter 3, verses 2 through 5.
Okay. Wake up, strengthen what little remains, for even what is left is almost dead. I find that your actions do not meet the requirements of my God. Go back to what you heard and believed at first. Hold to it firmly. Repent and turn to me again. If you don't wake up, I will come to you suddenly, as unexpected as a thief. Yet there are some in the church in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes with evil. They will walk with me in white, for they are worthy. All who are victorious will be clothed in white. I will never erase their names from the book of life, but I will announce before my Father and his angels that they are mine.
Then 19, verse 8, please.
Okay, 8. She has been given the finest of pure white linen to wear, for the fine linen represents the good deeds of God's holy people.
Okay. So we've read three different or four different passages from three different sections in the Bible, the New Testament, that somehow relate to what we just read in Revelation 16. Did you pick up on some of the areas? What did you pick up on? Anyone?
Stay awake.
Okay, stay awake. We hear that consistently. The message to Sardis, the church, was that they're asleep. The message was very clear from Jesus. Wake up, strengthen that which remains.
Mhm.
At the end, he tells them what? What does he tell them at the end? He who overcomes gets what?
Clothed in white.
Clothed in white. Notice the link to the clothing, the garment. And then, Carol, you read in Revelation 19:8. What does clothing have to do with it?
He's coming for his bride, so it's the finest of pure white linen to wear.
Yeah, and linen is what? You read it in chapter 19, verse 8.
The fine linen represents the good deeds of God's holy people.
The good deeds of God's holy people. So, linen, as mentioned here, or garments, as mentioned in Revelation 16:15, the verse that we're talking about, has to do with what? Based on what we just read. The righteousness and the good deeds of the saints, right? So essentially what Jesus is saying is this: blessed is the one who remains watchful all the time. That's the Beatitude. Who's always watching, never sleeping, not falling asleep, always remaining awake, and who keeps his garments. What does that mean in light of what we just read?
They're ready for the wedding or ready for the feast.
Who keeps his garments. He stays righteous. He continues his good deeds. That's right, Josiah. That means that he is not only staying awake and paying attention and watching for the of the Messiah, but also continuing in his good or her good actions and behavior, not falling short, not giving up doing good to the saints, not giving up doing the work that the Lord has called them to do, not quitting, but persisting and remaining righteous before the Lord. So that's what Jesus is telling people here in Revelation 16:15. Be watchful, but in addition to that, blessed are you if you stay that way and continue in the good works that you are doing and remain righteous throughout. Why? So that you may not walk naked and people see your shame. Being naked here is a symbol of being stripped of righteousness, right? Not having the clothes, the fine linen that symbolize the, yes.
That noise too loud?
I don't know what that noise was.
Was it too
I heard it.
It was loud.
It was loud.
I don't know if it's too
pretty loud?
Is it gonna continue on forever?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
We'll ignore it. Any other observations and thoughts on this verse? Don't be shy.
Just brought a lot of remembrance of our, the week we discussed the wedding feast.
That's right. That's the other thing that comes to mind. So we spent a good deal of time talking about the symbolism of the wedding and how it links into the book of Revelation. Really, that Revelation is about that consummation of that wedding and preparation for that final celebration with Jesus coming for his bride. And we know that the time is it known? It's not known. We don't know. We just read in Mark, that Stephen read for us, nobody knows the time. It may be in the morning, it may be at lunchtime, it may be at night. We don't know when. And nobody can tell us it's going to be on December 5th, 2030, because nobody has those dates. Only God the Father knows. And we look at the richness of the symbolism of a Galilean wedding and the link associated with how the Father tells the Son, it's time, go get your bride. And so this is what we are being reminded of here. Stay awake, be watchful, be ready, because you don't know when that time will come, when my Father will say, go get your bride. And when that word goes out, I will come, and if you're not ready, it will be as if I were a thief breaking into your house. You would not know that I've come. That's the sense and the meaning of this verse. Any other feedback, comments, questions? So remember, we're at an interlude right now, the final interlude, and this time, instead of John witnessing an event, he's hearing the words of Jesus saying, stay alert, pay attention, don't fall asleep, continue, keep on the fight, keep on, keeping on. And then we are introduced to Revelation 16, verse 16. And we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about this one verse. Okay, verse 16. Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Does your translation say something different? Yes, Jamie.
So they assembled the kings at the place called in Hebrew Armageddon.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mine doesn't mention the kings.
Okay. Just says them, right?
I assembled them.
Anyone online has a version that says something different?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's some variations in this because of the interpretation of the Greek here and which manuscript is being used. So I've got a few that I'll share with you. NIV, then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. English Revised Version, and they gathered them together into the place which is called in Hebrew Armageddon. You see the first difference? Okay. New Living Translation. And the demonic spirits gathered all the rulers and their armies to a place with the Hebrew name Armageddon. The demonic spirits is interjected here. Okay, King James Bible. And he, not they, and he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. New Heart English Bible, he, again, gathered them together into the place which is called in Hebrew Armageddon. So what is it? And which one is the right one? And how do we understand and interpret this one? And why do we have all these variations? So we're going
I think we lost you.
Yeah, we lost you.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
lost
we
you.
lost Precor, but the rest of us are linked up.
Yeah, we are.
A lot of good
That's
that
good.
does us, right?
Yeah.
Lamar, you going to teach?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Precor, we lost you.
Well, I think I'm going to leave and then reopen the session and let him link me in again. Try it that way.
Well, let us know if we should all do that.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want to all try that? Or just wait for a little bit?
Let's see if it works for Lamar.
Oh, okay.
All right, that sounds good.
It still shows Lamar as in here.
Oh, yeah, I see him.
Yeah.
See, all I can see is I guess Margie and then Carol, just a circle with an initial.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
see Lamar
nice.
anymore.
Do you guys want to try putting on your cameras?
Sure.
Well, I'm not dressed, but I have a bathrobe on.
Oh, well, that looks comfortable to me.
That's okay. That's okay. It's just as long.
I
Oh,
haven't brushed
mine's
my
not
hair
coming.
too much today.
Oh, okay. So that's okay.
There you are.
Yeah,
There you are.
that's okay. As long as we're not on the 30-foot screen at church.
Yeah, really. That's for sure.
Gosh.
Well, I see Creekhorse initials.
You do?
Oh, now Lamar's back. It has Lamar and
What?
Sandy, and then Lamar Brenneman as guest again. So he's on there twice.
So Creekhorse, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Now
can-
we can. We just couldn't see anything. So I will mute I'll turn everything off now that you're back.
We are still having issues here for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on. Maybe internet related, but I'm going to kill the video and just have the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, that's not working either.
Oh,
So
we could see it there for a minute.
Yeah, I saw it for a minute there. It came up.
bear with me.
Okay. There it is.
Okay, what was the last thing you heard me say?
About the different translations
In English?
in English, yes. And the different one, the how they varied.
Okay. All right, so I was pulling out the Hebrew. I'm sorry, the Greek. Technical difficulties. Pulled out the Greek, and I was pointing out that we have the same word here in most of the manuscripts for synagogen, which is the word gathering. And we have some variations with the Armageddon in the Greek text. Can you still see?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you get dropped again, please text as you did before, because I didn't notice it earlier. Okay, so to continue, so what I did is I've taken the Greek, and we're going to break it down into parts, and we're going to focus on 3 of the words here, really. But let me give you the breakdown of the smaller words. So kai is and, autos is them. So in Greek, it does say them, it doesn't say kings. Aiston topon is unto the place. Don kalimenon is called. Hebraisti Armageddon. Okay, so the question is it he called, they called, what called? So that second word there, that is the yellow word, what is that word really saying? And also the last 2 words, we're going to look at those a little bit more closely. So the first one, synagogen. This verb is actually singular. It's not plural. It's singular in Greek, which accounts for the translations that have he gathered. And those seem to imply that it's talking about God gathering those forces. But in reality, it is singular because its subject is neuter plural. And in the Greek, there is that form where it can be singular, but it points to a plural neutral in this case. The subject of this word here points to the 3 demonic spirits in Revelation 16:13 through 14. So let me read this back to you. We go back to last week, Revelation 16, verse 13. Then I saw 3 evil spirits that looked like frogs. They came out of the mouth of the dragon, the devil, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, the Antichrist. This is the unholy trinity here. And notice verse 14. They are spirits of demons performing miraculous signs. And then notice what it says next. And they go out to the kings of the whole battle on the great day of God Almighty, the mega day that we talked about last time. So in this case, as it is in the context, it's pretty clear in the context here from verse 14, which clearly states the meaning. The proper translation here is not he gathered. The proper translation of this word is they gathered together. Okay, they gathered together. So that is referring back to the 3 evil spirits, and we are told very clearly in verse 14, they're the ones doing the gathering. They're the ones who are pushing and driving those kings to meet at that location. Okay, any questions on this first word? All right, so, yes, Debbie.
Can I go back to a different question?
Yes, of course.
I saw something that I hadn't caught before, when you said the unholy trinity.
Yeah.
The dragon is Satan, the false prophet is the Antichrist, the beast would be.
The second one would be the revived Roman Empire that we talked about, the unholy, demonic world power that would come into control. This is the beast in Revelation chapter 13. The first verse, the beast coming out of the sea. Okay, all right, so now we have, and they gathered together them. Them means here, them refers back to verse 14, which talks about the kings, right? The kings and the rulers. So if your translation says the kings, that's also correct, because it's interpretive, not literal. The literal word translation is them. The interpretive translation is the kings. Both are correct. Okay. Next thing I want to look at, notice the last two words here. Hebraisti Armageddon. Okay, and I have the first letter of each of those words in a different color for a reason. And this is important because it plays into the whole interpretation of this verse. Greek does not have the H sound. There is no letter in Greek that has sound in it. So, to substitute for the H sound, the Greek language uses the backward apostrophe like you see in front of the E here and in front of the A. So examples would be apostrophe E would be read in Greek as he, not he, okay, or E. Apostrophe A would be read as ha. Apostrophe O would be read as ho, okay? That's how we are coming across with that sound in Greek, because it doesn't, the sound H just doesn't exist. And that's how they make up for it. Notice the second from last word, okay? The first colored word, and I'm going to bring it down here. No, Hebraisti in Greek, you read it Hebraisti, the apostrophe E. Hebraisti, which means in Hebrew. That's what it means, in Hebrew. And then we have this sixth word. And that word is also read Armageddon, not Armageddon. Okay? The Greek has the apostrophe in front of it before the A, making the sound ha. And then it's very important to ask ourselves the question, why does John tell us it's a Hebrew word? He's writing in Greek, right? Why does he tell us while he is writing in Greek, pay attention, this word is Hebrew? Remember, when you run into something that kind of is a question mark, you should always pause and ask the question, why? So I'm asking the question, why? Is it what?
The numbers of the word.
I'm not sure I know what you're...
A few weeks ago, you were talking about how like...
Oh, the numbering?
Yeah.
No, but good guess, Larry. Okay.
It makes a difference on the meaning.
I'm sorry?
Does it make a difference on the meaning? That would be my first guess.
Does it make a difference on the meaning?
Right, whether it's Hebrew or Greek.
It does, absolutely.
Okay.
Is it a Hebrew?
It is a Hebrew word. And John tells us that in this verse. Notice what verse 16 says. Then they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Okay? Which means he's writing it in Greek, but he's telling his readers, this is not a Greek word. You need to understand it in Hebrew. Those of you who are Hebrew speakers, Hebrew believers, should know what I'm talking about. So pay attention to this word, and it would matter to them, and they would know what he's talking about. Okay, the verse clearly tells us this is a Hebrew word. Therefore, in Hebrew, it would be transliterated as Har-Mageddon. Two words. The first word, Har, in Hebrew means mountain. It means mountain or mount. The second one is, it's a word, Mageddon. So we got to figure out what that word is. So translated, not transliterated. Now, if we translate this into English, what it's saying is the mountain Mageddon. Are you following with me so far? Okay. If I lose you, slap me and I'll come back and repeat. I don't want to go, please ask questions because this is an important point. Any questions so far?
And they're referring back to Old Testament.
Oh yeah, we will be soon. Okay. So the correct translation of Revelation 16:16 is, and they gathered them, which means the kings of the whole world in verse 14, and they gathered them together to the place that is called in Hebrew Armageddon. That's the correct translation into English. Where or what is Armageddon? Now, how many of us here have heard the word Armageddon before? Who hasn't, right? If you've watched some of our movies or, read some of the stories that people make it out to be, they like to glorify the idea. We have a Bruce Willis movie on Armageddon. We have games, and we have glorified ideas of what Armageddon is going to be or what it looks like. But that's not what the Bible is talking about. Let's dig into it a bit more. What I have up on the screen is a map of Lower Galilee in Israel. You can see the Sea of Galilee in the top right corner. On the northern tip is Capernaum, where Jesus lived and preached and taught. And in this region, you see the big patch of green in the center? That's the Jezreel Valley. At the edge of it, that I'm circling here, is a little town known as Megiddo. This is Megiddo that is mentioned in the Old Testament in multiple locations. Okay, we'll hold that thought. And this is the Jezreel Valley. If you go to Mount Tabor, which is at that location right here, and look southward, this is what you would see. So it's a big, wide valley. If you now reverse and go the other direction, looking back out towards Mount Tabor, this is what you see. So Megiddo and the Jezreel Valley are very significant in the Bible and in the Old Testament. Megiddo is actually a very strategic location, about 17 miles north of Jerusalem. And the plain of Megiddo was a frequent battleground. Right in this location, one of the pharaohs defeated the Canaanites in 1468 BC. Barak and Deborah defeated the Canaanites, Judges 4 and 5. You can read that. We studied that together a couple of years ago. Judah's king, Josiah, died in the battle against Pharaoh Necho here in this area. And even the British, under General Allenby in AD 1917, defeated the Turks opposite of Megiddo in this area. And this has been the traditionally accepted location for the gathering of the kings in Revelation chapter 16. And I say this as traditionally accepted. Most people will tell you this is what the location is. This is where it's going to be. If you go on a tour in Israel, they'll take you there and they'll talk about this is where Armageddon is going to take place. But is that really what Armageddon is talking about? Remember, what does the first word mean? Har means what? Mountain. Right? If we go back, where's the mountains here? It's a plain. And 2 Chronicles 35:22 clearly tells us it's the plain of Megiddo, not the mountains of Megiddo. What many refer to is this little tell that you see over here. This is not a mountain. This is not even a hill. It's actually just an archaeological mound, better known as a tell, T-E-L. This is a buildup over the millennia of areas that get destroyed and built over, destroyed, built over, destroyed, built over time. This became a citadel. It's not a natural formation. It's an artificial formation that came to be a tell, a small bump in the earth, right? It's certainly not a mountain. So, what does the rest of the Bible have to say about this final battle? Well, let's look at some verses together. First one, Zechariah chapter 12. Who would like to read? Go ahead, Josiah. Zechariah 12, verses 2 and 3, and then verses 9 through 11. Okay, 2 and 3, and then verses 9 through 11. Yeah, go ahead, really loud.
Behold, I am going to make Jerusalem a cup that causes staggering to all the people around it. And when the siege is against Jerusalem, it will also be against Judah. It will come about on that day that I will make Jerusalem a heavy stone for all the peoples. All who lift it will injure themselves severely, and all the nations of the earth will be gathered against it. On that day, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem, and I will pour out on the house of David and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of pleading, so that they will look at me, whom they pierced, and they will mourn for him, like mourning for an only son, that they will weep bitterly over him, and the bitter weeping over a firstborn. On that day, the mourning in Jerusalem will be great, like the mourning of had a ribbon, maybe?
That's okay.
In the plain of
Megiddo. Okay, and since you're already there, can you go to Zechariah 14? And I'm not going to have you read the whole chapter, but let me. Zechariah 14. Actually, yeah, if you can just read the first 3 verses for now.
Behold, a day is coming for the Lord when the spoils taken from you will be divided among you. For I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be taken, the houses plundered, the women raped, and half of the city exiled. But the rest of the people will not be eliminated from the city. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fights on a day of battle.
Okay. I missed one verse. Give me a second. Okay, and then one more verse.
On that day, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which is in front of Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives will be split in its middle from east to west, forming a very large valley. Half of the mountain will move toward the north, and the other half toward the south.
Okay, so first of all, question 1. What does verse 2 say about the nations being present where?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem, that's right. And the Lord is going to go and fight against these nations as he fights in the day of battle. And then immediately after that, in verse 4, he talks about the verse that we all know. Many of us know this pretty well. On that day, his feet, whose feet? This is the second coming right here, Jesus's feet. His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two. So let's keep on going. Joel chapter 3.
I got it. I can read it.
Okay.
Joel 3:2, right?
Yeah.
I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I will judge them for harming my people, my special possession, for scattering my people among the nations, and for dividing up my land.
Okay, one more time. I will gather my people where?
Among the nations.
And bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Keep that in mind. Then go to verse 12 and through 16, please.
Okay. Let the nations be called to arms. Let them march to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There I, the Lord, will sit to pronounce judgment on them all. Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come.
Pause a second. Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. What does that remind you of? Something we just studied. Sorry? Go ahead.
I said the wine.
The wine press, that's right, and the picture of right, with the sickle, right? We talked about this here together in Revelation. Okay, go ahead. Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Go ahead, Carol.
Swing the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come tread the grapes, for the wine press is full. The storage vats are overflowing with the wickedness of these people. Thousands upon thousands are waiting in the valley of decision. There the day of the Lord will soon arrive. The sun and moon will grow dark, and the stars will no longer shine. The Lord's voice will roar from Zion and thunder from Jerusalem, and the heavens and earth will shake. But the Lord will be a refuge for his people, a strong fortress for the people of Israel.
Thank you, Carol. So notice the terms that we are coming across here in Joel. This is definitely talking about the end days, right? Notice the symbolism, the mention of the sun and the moon, the stars. This is end time language. The mention of the harvest being ready, swinging the sickle. This is an image directly from the book of Revelation, which we studied. So there's no question, this is a reference to those end times. Then verse 14, multitudes and multitudes in the valley of what?
Decision.
In the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision, which we just read a little while ago, is the valley of Jehoshaphat. What is that? Here's the picture of it. The valley of Jehoshaphat, also known as the valley of decision in Joel 3:14, is also known as the Kidron Valley, which runs between the old city of Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives, which we just read, where Jesus' feet are going to stand, right? This is all imagery related to Armageddon. So stay with me here. It's getting better, okay? The view here is, imagine Mount of Olives behind me, and all city Jerusalem is in front of me, and I am looking southwest. That's what you're seeing in this picture here. And it's facing the Temple Mount. So the Temple Mount will be on the left side of the wall, I can point right there. That's the Temple Mount area. You see the gates right here? These are called golden gates. You see two arches. There used to be actually open gates here. The Muslims shut it down because the story goes that when Jesus' feet rest on the Mount of Olives, he will actually enter Jerusalem through those gates. So the Muslims actually shut down those gates, shut it up with stone, and actually planted a graveyard right out here to defile the area. Of course, that's not going to stop our Savior, right? But this is what you're seeing. There's a ton of history here. And I'm trying to explain it. This valley here that you're seeing, this is the Kidron Valley. And it stretches and it goes further north almost to Megiddo. Okay? And this is known as the Valley of Decision. Literally between the old city of Jerusalem and Mount of Olives. If you were to turn around now and look to the other side, you will see this. This is the Mount of Olives. Right there is the location. I can see it. See it very well. Somewhere in there is a location where Jesus wept over Jerusalem. To the left is the Garden of Gethsemane. I'll show you another picture here in a minute. This is Absalom's pillar that he built at the base of the Mount of Olives. And the area where you see right here, this is the supposed area where Jesus walked towards the city of Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, down the Mount of Olives. And just for point of interest, way over here is where I was born. Another view. This is further to the north or to the left of this picture. Kidron Valley, the city of Jerusalem on the left. This is Gethsemane right here. The Mount of Olives. And this right here is the Hebrew University where I went to school. But Mount of Olives on one side, the old city of Jerusalem on the other. In the middle is the Kidron Valley, or the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And we are told, we've read the passages, that the armies are going to be gathered and sent there. We just read them from Zechariah and from Joel. Multitudes and multitudes will be gathered there. So, are you following with me so far? Okay.
Yes.
So based on what we have read to this point, Where do you think is that final battle that's going to be taking place?
In Jerusalem.
Looks like it's going to be Jerusalem, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, we have just seen so far. Okay, let me take it a step further. It gets better, so stay with me here. All right, a bit more technical, but this time in the Hebrew language. The Hebrew language, just like the Arabic language, has a sound, a letter that also has no equivalent in Greek or in English. That is the letter Ayin that looks like this. Okay, the way you pronounce that is in the back of the throat. So it's almost like a growl. Ah, okay. Oh, come on, everybody, practice. Ah, okay. Ah, yin. Try to say that. Ah, yin. Ah, yin. Okay, it's a sound that's made in the very back of the throat. It sounds a bit like a growl, and academically, it's also represented by a backward apostrophe because there's no equivalent for it. However, there's an interesting twist to this story. The closest sound that we have to the ah here is a very hard G, a guttural G. So Greek and English started replacing the ah sound with a G sound. It's often transliterated in that fashion. I'll give you an example that is a very well-known example that became a G from a ah sound. Who has heard of the city of Gomorrah? Okay. The word Gomorrah is not Gomorrah in Hebrew. The real word in Hebrew is Mora. Mora. But because that sound doesn't exist in English or in Greek, it got transferred into a G. Hence, we have the word Gomorrah instead of Mora. But the sound is actually not G. Are you following me so far? I'm going to make a connection, so stay with me here. Okay.
Makes more sense.
I'm sorry?
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
When you do that, it's like you're spitting something out.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I say that, Andy hides. Okay, everyone on Teams, are you with me so far?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so why is this important to what we're talking about? Well, again, I go back to this point I made earlier. There's a reason that John tells us that this word is Hebrew in its origin. It's not Greek. Why is that important? A Hebrew speaker would then know that it's not actually a G sound, it's the A sound that comes into play there. So the consonants M, G, and D get replaced with M, Ayin, and Dalet, and you get this word Moed. Moed. Okay. The word Moed in Hebrew, now Armageddon is really Har Moed. Har Moed. And in English, when you translate it, it becomes the Mount of Assembly. Does that ring any bell with anyone? Mount of Assembly. What is the significance of Har Moed, or the Mount of Assembly?
Is that the Temple Mount?
Well, you're close, but let's look up Isaiah chapter 14. Margaret, do you want to read that for us?
Yes.
Okay. Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 15.
Okay, just a second. 12 through 15. Okay. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of, to the dead, to the depths of the pit.
What is this talking about? Satan. That's right. It's a very well-known passage talking about the fall and rebellion and destruction of Satan, right? How you have fallen. Because you said to yourself, what did he say to himself?
I will be his God.
Yes, but he will ascend to where? Heaven, and what else?
Mount Zaphon.
The Mount of Assembly. There is that word. There is the significance of this word. Mount of Assembly is a term that describes God's dwelling place and his heavenly court, where he holds court, where he holds counsel, where he judges. So, Har HaMoed, or the mountain of assembly, is the Hebrew term that describes God's dwelling place and heavenly court. And John is using this very deliberately and pointing our attention to it by telling us it's a Hebrew word that you should already know. They already know because we're reading about Hebrew. We just read it in Isaiah, right? It's one of the terms where it says it's the dwelling place of God, where he holds court, where he holds judgment. Okay, so how does this now link back to what we're talking about? Remember I said Armageddon is actually also Har Moed, which is the Mount of the Assembly, and that is Mount Zion in Jerusalem. It's God's mountain where he is said to hold counsel. You can read Psalm 48 for that. It sits above the valley of decision that we read about in Joel 3, verse 14. So what we are reading here is the armies are getting gathered. And they are coming to Jerusalem, the valley of Jehoshaphat, as we have read in Joel, we've read in Zechariah, where they are going to face God himself. And this is going to be the final battle. And it's going to be on God's turf, where God is going to be the one who is going to take over. So, Armoed, or Armageddon as we best know it, it's about the utter and complete defeat of all the unbelieving nations who will be gathered in that place. They will be empowered and driven by Satan and the Antichrist to make one final stand against Jesus and against his saints. And that's going to be at that same location where Jesus is going to stand on the Mount of Olives, as we are told in Zechariah. that we just read.
I'm just a little confused.
Okay, go ahead.
It's probably just things I'm like, so Armageddon is a mountain of assembly. But Armageddon is not this big valley somewhere. It is the mountain of.
That's where traditionally people say it is, that it's going to be the valley of Jezreel Valley, which I showed you pictures of. But if you dig deeper, what I'm saying is it's actually the valley of Jehoshaphat, which we have just read references to, and it's at Jerusalem. Jerusalem is considered one of the terms that it's labeled as the dwelling place of God, especially when you read the word Zion. Okay, look at Psalm 48. Let me pull up some words. And I'm glad you asked, Pam, because I know there's a lot here. Great is the Lord and most worthy of praise in the city of our God, his holy mountain. Keep that in mind. His holy mountain. It is beautiful in its loftiness, the joy of the whole earth, like the utmost heights of Saphon. Saphon is the north, is Mount Zion, the city of the great king. So this is a terminology. Basically, what we're saying here is the armies will be gathered at Jerusalem. And at Jerusalem, God is going to be utterly destroying these wicked armies for good. And the symbolism here points directly to his dwelling place, to his court, to his mount of assembly, as we have just seen it. It is on that scene that the demonized nations will come to an end.
So that's where the blood will flow to the horses' bridles, and is that someplace different?
Well, that is the symbolism. Remember, it says 200 miles. So if you look at 200 miles, that's the width of all of Israel. So you can't just say it's localized to one location, but it is going to be a complete destruction of these nations, and God himself will be doing that battle. Jesus himself will be fighting, and we will see this when we get to Revelation chapter 19. We'll get into that in more detail, because that is the sequel, the next level to the story, and we can see that in Revelation 19. 19:19, I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against the rider on the horse and his army. But the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet. So we will read all about that when we get to Revelation chapter 19. But the short story here is that God is going to win this war. And he's going to bring those evil nations that colluded against the saints, that went out deliberately killing his holy people. He is going to bring those nations to an end. And the battle will be won by him. And there's no question about that. The symbolism, the imagery, the language, and the whole story behind it is so rich and so explicit that the significance, especially in Hebrew, is just amazing. The connection that is being made here. Did that make more sense?
It's just so different than I grew up.
Yeah, it is. I know it is.
Well, if all the armies of the world are going to be gathered there, they may be all the way out to that whole big valley.
Yeah, that's true too.
They'll be all over. They'll be all over Israel.
Multitudes and multitudes. That's correct. That's a very good point.
It doesn't make much sense that
Jerusalem's not a player in the big finale anyhow, right? All the way along, Jerusalem's been kind of a focal point, so.
Yep.
It's gotta be there.
Yeah,
Is this on the city of David?
it's very close to the city of David, yeah. So yes, I know this is very different, and many may not agree with this, but I'm connecting the dots with the Hebrew and the language here that is very rich and ties with all the Old Testament passages we just read together.
Well, none of us hope to be in this battle as a participant, so it's okay to not know exactly where it's gonna be.
But the best news in all of this, and the bottom line in all of this, is God is gonna win. And the battle is his.
Amen.
And we are on the winning side. As long as we keep our linen, our clothing, right? Maintain our faith, not give up, fight the good fight, and remain faithful to the end. Any questions, any comments?
Do you know any of the history on like how it got to be like confusing? Like, because Mount Zion is mentioned in the New Testament, and it doesn't seem